Hi friends, it's your pal Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about the Charlie Kirk event. So on September 10th of 2025, Charlie Kirk was in Utah, and an assassin who is currently still shrouded in mystery um, took his life with a long iron from 200 yards. That's a very sad. No, Charlie Kirk was an American citizen in good standing, and should have been free from violence from anybody in this country, right? And instead, this action was taken against him, which there was no justification for, and was quite literally a crime. Was literally an American crime, and figuratively a crime against humanity, because Charlie Kirk was very young, and he very well may have accomplished a lot more in his life. Actually, we're going to talk about what he's accomplished. We'll get there. Okay, so I did have some thoughts on this. So Charlie Kirk was a very interesting man. My understanding of him was that he was a conservative who really liked to verbally spar. He was a very talented debater, and he would go into public conversations and he would challenge people, and he was very comfortable being challenged live, right there, like no holds barred. um, and he was a verbal sparrer, and he was a champion for American values, traditional American values. And so he was encouraging people to abandon modern progressive values and return to American traditional values. So that was his main press, right? And he did this through this exhibition debating, through this verbal sparring, right? And he was incredibly effective. And I think where I knew him from was he would sit at this table, and there was a sign, and the sign would say something, and it'd be like, I'm saying this, debate me, and he grew this, like, this platform he had, right? So he had a very powerful skill set, especially within the conservative, on the conservative side. We don't really have that many people that are dramatic and dynamic the way he was, who had a lot of charisma and was able to, like, control a room. I think we're starting to get these guys, Reagan, Trump, Kirk. We are starting to get a few of these on the right, which is interesting, because usually dramatic, dynamic, charismatic people are on the left, right? They're very passionate. They have these really outlandish ideas. So to find somebody who really loves American traditional values, but actually is compelling and interesting, is really rare. So so he was living a meaningful life. He was a banner carrier. He was carrying a banner. I love Warhammer 40K, and so they have regular Space Marines, and then they have Devastators who have these heavy weapons, and then they have these banner carriers, and these old, often the oldest, Space Marine will have this banner, and it'll be like a 15-foot pole, right, with this long flowing, Emperor's flag on it, right? And that's what he was for the Republicans. He was a banner carrier, right? He was out on the field, and he was carrying a banner across the field, which is really fascinating, right? And and he was leading a meaningful life. Okay. So then this person who has no justification for doing what they did comes in, and they take this action, and they end his life, right? Now, this is going to get, I'm going to tread very carefully here. All right. I'm going to try to. All right. He was leading a meaningful life, and that cannot be taken for granted. Many people do not lead meaningful lives. Do they have something they're trying to accomplish? Do they fail at accomplishing that, or do they succeed, right? A lot of times, and what I see a lot today, is guys who are men specifically, and I think this is a men's issue, right? In that Charlie Kirk was a man who had a very specific plan and had a very specific goal, right? And was carrying a banner for American conservatives, right? And he was leading this meaningful life. And what's really fascinating to me is he was leading this meaningful life. And then this person comes along and ends his life in this very specific manner, right? Uh, and now Charlie Kirk's life is put into counterposition to every other American male, right? And right now, I was just listening to a video recently with Richard Reeves, and Richard Reeves was explaining that American males are really struggling right now. And I mean, the biggest way you can tell this is this deaths of despair. This is a coin that was termed in 2017 specifically for what was happening to American males, men just realizing that they were not leading meaningful lives and didn't have any purpose and were just dying in 100 different ways because they didn't value their lives anymore, and they were taking so many risks and they would die in so many different ways, but everybody could recognize this is a death of despair, right? And so you have all these men in America from 2017 up until now, and it's still happening, dying these deaths of despair. And then you have Charlie Kirk living this meaningful life, right? And what's interesting is he wanted to accomplish something. He wanted to encourage people to return to come over to or to maintain American traditional values, right? And that's not easy. It's not easy to get people to listen to that, right? And so he's leading this meaningful life and he's scoring points, right? So I'm currently playing this game Balatro. It's really excellent. I highly recommend this video game. It's a solitaire game, and you put different you have these jokers that do these different things that score each hand that you play, right? And so you play your cards down, and you have a 10 and a 10, right? And that's going to be 20, right? And then the joker can say, oh, well, that's going to be a multiplier of, we're going to multiply, the jokers multiply the points that you get down with the cards, right? And then the jokers are multipliers, right? And when you're playing this game, you put down your cards, a 10 and a 10, add those together, that's 20. Okay, the joker kicks in, that's going to be times 2. So now I have 40 points, right? But then there are other jokers that will not just add to the multiplier value, but they can multiply the multiplier, right? So there's some jokers that were like, add up all the multipliers that the other, and you might have 5 or 6 jokers, right? And they're going to be like a times 2, and then, or actually, I'm sorry, they're going to put in the multiplier slot 2, and then it'll add another 2, right? So now you're at 4, and then another joker can do a multiplier on the multiplier, right? And this is where the scores just explode, right? And so you're adding to the multiplier value 2 plus 2, that's going to be 4. So now it's 20 times 4, and that's 80. And then another joker comes in and it says 1.5. So it's going to do 4 times 1.5. So that number is now 6, right? And, so it's 6 times 20, that's 120 points, right? And so you have your points scored, you have your multiplier, and then you have multiples of the multiplier, right? And what I can't help but to see, and I think this is what's happening. You could disagree. He was leading this meaningful life, and then he encountered a meaningful death, in that he had no intention. When it was very clear, he got up that morning, he went to work the way he did every other day, and he intended to continue to live a meaningful life. And then this other person, who I believe is almost certainly a man, they're saying manhunt, so not just me. I do think the odds are, there is absolutely a possibility that this was a female, but I think the odds are low. Okay, so it was a man taking another man's life, most likely, and that other man, I don't know if he meant to, but I think he paired Charlie Kirk's meaningful life with a meaningful death. Charlie Kirk didn't want that. He didn't ask for that, right? But what I see is like, I've been playing a lot of this Balatro game, and you play your cards down, and then it's like, here's your multipliers. 2 plus 2, 10 and 10. There's 20 points for your cards. Here's your joker. Here's a joker that gives 2. Here's another joker that gives 2. Now you're at 4. And here's a joker that does 1.5, right? Or it could do times 3, right? The multiplier of the multiplier. And then the numbers just like, and when you're playing this game, it's very exciting, right? Like there's this, there's the card value, there's the multiplier, and then there's a multiplier of the multiplier, right? And the scores literally catch on fire and explode as they shoot past the barrier that you had to get to go to the next blind, right? And what I see happening with Charlie Kirk is he was doing the work, right? He's playing his cards down, right? And then this action had, and then I think our world, social media, conservatives had already set multipliers on his work, like +2, right? And this person comes in and then matches his meaningful life with this meaningful death, and it's just everything he was working toward, everything he was saying, he wanted to be heard. He wanted to get his message out, right? The numbers are catching on fire. People are watching Charlie. They're going, Charlie, who now? And people who didn't know him are going and watching his stuff like hours and hours. I just saw a guy on Twitter. He's like, I just watched hours and hours of Charlie Kirk. I never seen him before. And it's terrible that this guy is gone, right? And so it's really wild. Like, no one had the right to do what that man did to Charlie Kirk. But I think it's difficult to not see that it is going to be a multiplier on a multiplier, and that what he was trying to do is now far more likely to get done. Okay? And so, and I think we have to wrestle with that. Like, what does that mean, right? And I'm not positive what all the meanings of that is, but I think it needs to be considered, right? Now, I know this is an extremely sensitive subject. I'm sharing my opinion because I think it helps to process these things, right? It helps for me, right? It helps for me to go to a trusted source and to hear what they have to say. And so my intention is to help in the healing process. And I do think it was terrible what this person did to Charlie Kirk. I also think it is a multiplier on a multiplier, right? And I think we need to realize that everything he was pushing for and the banner that he was carrying, that banner did not fall. It's like it's been cemented into the ground and multiplied by 10, right? And so I think that's really fascinating. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Absolutely nothing more and absolutely nothing less. The important part is when I hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.